Hello, Hockey World. Welcome to HockeyBuzzcast. I'm sorry for starting a little bit late here. Russ is going to get us going with something he's got to say.
All right, so let's talk about what used to be, I guess, a fun way for people to waste money on celebrity boxing matches. Now we have an issue because now you can gamble on them. So enter Barstool Sports and Jose Canseco. Currently, Barstool Sports is a fight promoter in the state of Michigan, and they operate these fights, and I forget what they're called. It was a different Rough and Rowdy, and it used to be a different company, and I guess they bought them. And so Jose Canseco fought a 22-year-old guy, and like any other 56-year-old guy, doesn't like getting hit in the face. So he got hit a couple times. He went down in the heap in the corner, and he said he quit. And so, of course, now Dave Portnoy is all over, the internet saying that he took a dive, and they paid half up front, and he got double if he won. And so, of course, this is coming off the PlayMichigan.com website, which is from the state of Michigan, and they're investigating because they had to give back all the money that was gambled on it because of the nature of this fight. And again, I'll go to Kevin first. Why in the world would they let Barstool Sports operate fights in the state of Michigan?
No idea. I didn't even, I live here, and I didn't even know that was going on. I have not seen a single word written about it. It
was streamed online for $20 a person.
Yeah. It's just it's just not in my sphere of interest, so I'm not gonna.
And Kevin,
so
you are so lucky that it's not in your sphere.
Yeah.
Well, Russ, I compare this to that fight that we saw a couple months ago I think it was before one of the Conor McGregor fights, where it was that YouTube guy versus the basketball player. And the YouTube guy, destroyed him in 2 rounds. I mean, I don't understand who wants to see. Did I want to see Mickey Rourke fight? No. It's like, I don't care about this stuff. I mean, maybe boxing has gotten so bad that, we gravitate toward these celebrity fights. But
look at our president.
Don't go there.
No, but I'm just saying we live in a world where boxing is, and boxing always has been. It's about the story, right? Like boxing's about the story. If you don't have a good story, you don't really have a boxing match. Like I think that's general. I mean, you have to have.
I actually think that's fair, Eklund. That's part of the boxing thing is to have, some sort of vitriol that's sort of built in or.
Well, you do have to have. Yes, you do have to have that. So here are the 3 things. First thing is, the state of Pennsylvania turned down this fight, and that was a good thing. They were smart. But here are the 3 things. It says Barstool put on and promoted the fight. Barstool Sportsbook took bets on the fight. The founder of Barstool Sports and the face of Barstool Sportsbook insisted Canseco threw the fight. I think there's a problem here. I'm just going to say, Kev, I'm not a journalist. I'm not an investigative journalist, but it doesn't smell right.
Yeah. No, I have no idea why they.
And the common denominator there, Russ, is Barstool. And I'm not going to say anything.
I mean, I know that we have the death of the term conflict of interest in this world, but
I really don't want to get into Dave Portnoy's crosshairs because he'll try to ruin everybody.
Yeah. I will tell you what was something that is fun though, and that I've joined, and I'm sure it's been done before, but boy, and not to this length. In Detroit now, we have so much reporting, and nationally you do too, on which teams offered what before the Lions settled on the deal with the Los Angeles Rams. And it reminds me of when I was a kid when, like these are fun stories. Rush, I'm sure if it happened with the Jet guy, you'd be analyzing every deal and be outraged about some of them because that's your personality. But for mostly, people have just had so much fun with these.
I wish. I've always been so frustrated. Is one of the things I try to do every year at the trade deadline, and I know you do too, Kevin, is like try to go out and see the deals that didn't happen, try to find them. And it's so hard to get anybody to tell you that.
It's because it affects people's lives.
Well,
even without putting names out there, just concept. Like I've said, if somebody was out there, a bunch of people were trying. I don't know. I just want something.
I heard one of those deals, Kev, was with Carolina, and it was I think their first round pick and Teddy Bridgewater.
Yeah.
And you know what? I probably would have rather had that deal than that. Now, they got an extra first along with Goff, but they also got $28 million in salary or something ridiculous like that. So I almost would have rather taken the Carolina deal than the LA Rams deal.
Yeah, I mean, people have been debating about it, but it's been, I think people are fine with the current deal. So I think that's why there hasn't been the level of outrage that you might see depending on, what they turn down. But mostly it's, but, I think it's fair for you to think that. I mean, a lot of the deals to me were, similar. It was just personal preference.
Sure.
Did you like Bridgewater? Did you want your a gratification now in this draft, or do you want it in years? Yeah, I mean, it just, it's just complicated. But I thought it was a lot of fun, and I thought, because right now we're living in the era where it's almost not fun to be a sports fan anymore. People are always angry about everything.
Everybody's angry. Everybody all the time.
Fun thing to see.
What I found interesting, and I found, and then we can get to talking hockey here, was the 6 degrees of separation regarding Stafford and McVay, the coach of the Rams. The McVay and a guy who was the receivers coach for the Bills played at high schools in the same town. The sister of that guy is the wife of Matt Stafford. So there was a connection. There was a connection there with Stafford and McVay before they even made the trade, and that was the reason why he wanted Stafford, because he knew Stafford going back to, when he was in high school. So I mean, that I love those connections. I love those stories. They make them interesting. They make things interesting.
Well, they do. I love those as well. And I will say too, it's also fun to me about how much greater of a quarterback Stafford became when it was decided he was leaving the Lions. Like, on every national show now, they're just talking about, his greatness. And to be honest, I've always been a big supporter. I think Matthew Stafford is a terrific quarterback. He just never had a running back. They went years without getting 100 yards rushing from anybody in the game.
Right.
And, he's never been surrounded. They've made a lot of mistakes in drafting through the years. I mean, what can you say about an organization that's won one playoff game in 65 years? You talk about not getting close.
When you say it, it's hard to believe that.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous. But I think people are sometimes you need a trade like this just to get fans re-energized. And I feel like the fan base in Detroit is re-energized by this.
Well, I like the coaching staff. I wanted the Jets to hire Aaron Glenn. I think very highly of Aaron Glenn, and Deuce Staley went there, and I think Deuce Staley's a terrific coach. I think actually they may have finally gotten a good coaching staff. We'll see.
And the last thing you're going to see, it's funny. J.J. Watt gets his release from Houston. Yeah. You're going to see, I would say, probably the top 8 teams in the NFL all sweet-talking J.J. Watt to come to Green Bay, to Seattle, to Buffalo, to Pittsburgh. It's going to be probably worse than Peyton Manning when Peyton Manning was being courted after he left Indianapolis.
I'm just hoping the Jets don't want him, but I could see Douglas. Listen, Douglas has the most money to spend. He could sign Watt just to have a guy to trot in front of the press.
Don't you think
it's impossible?
Don't you think Watt wants to win a Super Bowl and not make $25 million a year?
Who knows?
Yeah. Okay.
Let's talk hockey. I got a lot of things to get off my chest.
Yeah, let's do it. All right. Hello, Hockey World. It is Friday, February 12th, 2021.
I'm Michael Agello, and here I have a member of the Vegas Golden Knights.
I'm Russ Cohen, and when I worked in the food service industry, that gold foil that would be on the baked potatoes just before handing them out at bar mitzvah was the same color as the Vegas Golden Knights.
I like them. I like the chrome helmets. I think it's cool. I'm Macklin. You're watching HockeyBuzzcast.
Whoa, excuse me. Something important in the bottom left corner here.
Yeah, I don't even know.
Sorry.
I didn't even know where to go after that.
I apologize.
Trophy, but
I had like 3 texts.
I'm Kevin Allen, and I'm really intrigued by what Mike Adello is going to talk about with those uniforms.
And I'm Macklin, and you watch HockeyBuzzcast at HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes every Monday through Friday to fill you in on the comings and goings in the hockey world. And Mike, go ahead.
Well, okay. I have been a vocal critic of the reverse retro jerseys. The ones that are nice, the ones I know it's personal preference. Like I like the Minnesota Wild one.
Yeah, me too.
The LA Kings royal blue forum blue are fine with the 90s Gretzky emblem. But when they're bad, they're really bad. Like the Leafs, I mean, you couldn't see the numbers from the press box, so they had to put the gray. They had to change them from one week to the other so that you could actually see the numbers. The Montreal Canadiens with their blue, I liked the concept. I saw it, and then on the ice, it looked so weird. And apparently now there's a movement in Montreal because they're 0-2 wearing the blue jersey. So now it's like the Dallas Cowboys blue jersey. They don't wear it anymore because they think it's cursed. But the worst was last night they didn't change the jersey. They just put a gold helmet on. It's like this. This is my high handicap series bowling trophy. This is a guy from the Vegas Golden Knights. That's what it looked like. It was that friggin' bad.
Yeah, it looked like I said, it looked like gold tinfoil. It was awful.
It reminded me of roller derby.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, roller derby. The helmets they wore. But I gotta, I think you're on to something too about, like I tend just to not get too excited about, whether a sweater is, whether we like it or hate it or whatever. But saying that, I knew that there was a lot of unrest because I found social media. But a guy that I've known for a lot of years sent me a text during that game last night because he was just beside himself. And, Mike, he's not like you. Like, he's not upset about everything. So when this guy is upset about it, because he's never upset. He's a journalist. He's very low key about it. But, he just was outraged by, and I had to turn it on. I wasn't watching, and I had to agree with him.
I mean, Kat, the only thing they were missing were gold skates. Imagine if they had gold skates.
Yeah, although he hated the Stars, I don't know why, but that neon gets me. I wasn't as appalled by the Stars. That I probably should have been, but I wasn't. So
it didn't bother me. I mean, it was funny. We got into a discussion yesterday with my son about the way that we name teams, and because we were showing, he said those actually look like legitimate like night type things. They look like an actual, that is an actual night helmet. And he's always like, he's always surprised, like when we name a team like after the Vikings or like the Vikings. Minnesota Vikings are a perfect example. Like Vikings were the most horrendous, horrible people to ever live on this planet. Like they killed and plummeted, and I mean, just absolutely. How many centuries you have to be away, like, before something like that becomes, like the Spartans and the Trojans and all these different things you used to get out there, and the Vikings and the
Trojan man seems like a nice guy. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's just funny. Like the Viking and the Pirates, like that we name teams Buccaneers and Pirates. Like that's absurd.
I'm not going there, Russ.
At least it's legitimate.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah.
Okay, so what else you have, Kev? You got something else for us?
Well, I mean, I would just want to talk. Helene Elliott wrote a column, and I think we've all sort of thought about this, but I thought she really defined it well. Mm-hmm. Her suggestion was that the league right now should just cut to 48 games, and I thought it is a terrific suggestion. The only thing I would say is, now that the new protocols in place, I might wait
to see if they work.
Yeah, just give it a week and make sure that we're not, but if we get inundated again, it makes a lot of sense. And, the reason I like it is this, we're going to be scrambling at the end of the season to try to get everybody's games in. And we're going to have some goofy situations where people are going to play 5 games in 6 nights, or 4 games in 5 nights, or we might even see the only place I've ever seen it was in the AHL, games on 3 consecutive days. And as a fan, I would love that.
Right.
I think it would be fun, but I'm sure there'll be some grousing about it if it has to happen. So, to me, this just sort of relieves the pressure on what's going to happen and the concern about. How we're going to make this work and whether it's going to be fair and whether, some teams are going to play 40 or 48 games and some will play 53 games or, what's it going to be? Because nobody likes the percentage. Everybody wants to play the same amount of games. So if we just establish that now the only problem with that is that what that really means is we're a lot farther into the season if we do that.
Yes, that's the issue.
Than we think we are.
Then the trading deadline would have to be adjusted too, Kev.
For sure, absolutely. But I as I said talking to a friend about this, like, why does that matter? Like who cares when the trade?
Well, I think it matters. The only reason I could say it matters is if you do get a team that says, "Hey, we were coaching it a certain way because we looked at the schedule,
right?
We laid out it for goaltending, we did it for this, and this is why." Again, you're right. In the end, hey,
but how does that impact?
The question to me is how would you get there? Like, would you start eliminating games now, or would you just play till you get to 48?
Yeah, I mean, you just would decide how many you're going to play each team. Now it's not going to work out perfectly because I mean, the thing is, you shouldn't skip any games. You could get in because you might not be able to get in later. That's the big thing to me is like 56, and we should just accept 48.
But I still, no, they're not going to accept a shorter amount. They only will do that as a last resort. They're going to try to get in 56, and you can see why they're going to try to get in 56 by what they've done over the last week by reorganizing Arizona and St. Louis to play games while other teams are being rested or other teams.
Well, there is one other big factor. The other big factor is what they announced yesterday and what other teams are going to announce, allowing some fans in. If you all of a sudden cut it to 48, you're now taking revenue away, Kev, from teams that might get some revenue.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I got the statement from the Columbus Blue Jackets, and I will say this: like, that's a reasonable approach.
Yeah,
1,900. I thought they were going to try to squeeze 6,000 or 8,000 people.
Yeah, no, it is. I mean, what Florida's doing, 4,500. That's a lot, but that's a tough.
Yeah, but I watched the Florida Tampa game yesterday, or at least some of it. If they had they did not have 4,500 people. Yeah, I saw like 8 people in the stands, and what I'm saying it's
they have more people.
Like a normal Florida Panthers game on a Tuesday.
Yeah, they have more people up top. Like they definitely spread them out. And they haven't sold all 4,500. There have been people, I've talked to people down there, and there are people who are afraid to go out. Like we discussed that would be a problem, and that's a problem.
Panthers fans are spread all the way to Montreal. That's why we never see them in the place.
Now, two things. Well, it's weird. We've had very few positives in the North Division in Canada,
right?
But it's funny that the 24 U.S. teams are going to rapid testing. But last night we saw apparently rapid testing is not available in 6 of the 7 Canadian markets. In Toronto, they just implemented it a couple days ago. It's the machines are not available. I'm not sure if it's a governmental thing or what, but they're not available right at this moment. So they had to delay the game by an hour yesterday to get a rushed PCR test for Puljujarvi and for 8 or 9 players who sit around him on the plane or on the bus just to make sure that nobody else was positive. I mean, Canada, you're going to have to get with the program here. You're going to have to get the rapid testing to these teams so it doesn't spread. And right now it's not a concern because nobody's gotten it, but it could happen. So I think they have to step up and get these machines.
Well, from the fan perspective too, watching way too much about the pandemic, and I'll admit that up front. But it's pretty clear that there's an expectation that this South African variation could result in another surge. And I think that is partially why we're having now we're, people are saying, well, I don't know whether I want to go now, even, because we're up to 40-some million now vaccinated. Now, it's still a long way from where we need to be to get to herd immunity, but we're pushing toward that. But I think so. I just said to my wife, yesterday, I said, "Are you ready?" As we've talked about before, I have Detroit Lions season tickets, and we obviously didn't go this year, even though there was some fans that let.
Right.
I said, "My wife, are you ready to go next year?" Because I'm getting my second vaccination. I'm an old cuss next Friday, and I said, "Will you be ready to go?" And she said, "No, I won't be ready." So and I don't think she's alone.
There's a lot of people. I mean,
Well, now you can have like a family lottery each time there's a game, Kev.
I've talked.
Well,
He was going to go with you.
That's the way it kind of works out anyway. In the old days, I had these tickets for a long time, but because I was covering hockey, I'd only see like 3 games a year. They go to friends and family and everyone else. So,
but the thing here is that we have to be concerned about like the different strains, the English, the British strain, the South African strain. But I've heard people from the CDC. I've interviewed. I've heard Fauci. They basically said January and February were going to be the worst months, and that it would taper off as the weather got warmer. Now we know that it can still spread in summer, but I think that people are panicking regarding them not being able to get 56 games in. I think the NHL assumed that January and February were going to be the worst months, and the challenges would be early. And as the season rolled along, it would get better. Now we don't know, but we'll see. But I think that that's the mindset of the league.
Well, I think so. I mean, and that's what they were told, but we now have a monkey wrench,
sure,
in it because the South African is more transmissible, which I don't even know exactly what that means, but everyone says that before you needed to be in a room for a few minutes in order to get it with somebody who had was in the spreadable zone. Now it's you can get it by just crossing paths with people. So
I
don't know. I mean, we that's the problem with these situations. We all have to report like we have medical degrees, and none of us have.
No, but look, I think at this point we all realize there's an element of luck here too.
Sure,
there is.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's definitely
which fits in well with sports because there's a great amount of luck that goes.
Yeah, and and then there's people who have been careful the entire time, and there are people who haven't been careful the entire time. That also plays into it, because the people who haven't been careful the entire time, a lot of them already got it, so they might not get this new strain because they've already gotten it. So the people who are being careful are still being careful. So I think that's why you're seeing things come down. I think at some point there's a matter of just a lot of people got it.
I'm supportive of the idea of trying to work some fans in.
I am too. I haven't been to the games. Haven't been there. You can easily get a couple thousand fans in there, and it wouldn't affect anything.
Yeah, right. I mean, as long as they don't, get overzealous and start thinking, well, if we do 2, we can do 6, and
I'll tell you the biggest change in Philly, Kev. When you get some fans in there, at least we'll finally hear some boos. We've gone. Up until this point,
that is a weird thing.
Well, whatever amount of Flyers home games there were, and not one boo. That is totally unrealistic.
It's really disconcerting, and I always hated boos. I'm like, why do people boo? What's the point of it? I always thought, but it is disconcerting to go to these games and feel like the players aren't being held accountable by their fans.
Right.
Well,
there's a feeling about that.
I'd like to hear an occasional boo.
They are being held accountable. All you got to do is look at social media.
Well, that's true.
Yeah, but it's but the immediacy of that, the fact that
there's no immediacy. You're right.
We talked about Carter Hart going nuts in Boston. If there's fans in Boston when Carter Hart goes nuts at the end of the game like that,
Kevin, it was the most noticeable. It was the most noticeable on Wednesday night when the Leafs played in Montreal at the Bell Center, and Josh Anderson scored a minute 16 into the game. It would have been francophone psychosis if there had been 18,000 fans at Centre Bell at that point, and when they scored with 3 minutes to go in regular. I mean, the pressure that teams are under when those fans get whipped up into a frenzy, it makes things completely different. So I don't. It's going to be weird to see how players adjust to fans being back in stadiums next year when they've gone an entire year without them in football, in baseball, in every sport.
Yeah, it is. It'll be different. I think the players have adjusted. I've seen stories from players who said, "Look, we're just used to it now in a short period of time." And I've played in international tournaments. I've seen this brought up so often,
right?
Where, especially over in Europe, where in the under 18s or the World Juniors, when you play in games and there's nobody there. So it's not like they hadn't seen this before.
No. And Russ and I were at the World Junior in Buffalo, and a lot of those players got to see how it was with no fans in the stadium.
Yeah, I remember going to the one. I've said this story before. Is that the most depressed I've ever been? I remember being in Massachusetts on New Year's Eve, and I was the only person staying at this hotel out in the middle of nowhere because I had covered a U.S. game there, and there was nobody at the game. There was nobody in the hotel. Like it was just, it was like it was in the Twilight Zone. So these players, I think, they all adjust to it, but I think, the fans will have a hard time. Like I'm sure if it's 1900 in Columbus, it's going to be so weird to them. Like you've even expressed how weird it is for you guys to watch the game.
Yeah.
So
it's very weird, but I think it'll be interesting when you have a few. Like right now, there's four fans of the Flyers game. They have a first responder.
Gritty, if you want to count Gritty as a fan.
Yeah. There's a first responder and his family that sit in this special box. And they're actually Flyers fans that come to every game. There's a different person every time. The Flyers just have this first responder.
They moved the whole setup back. It's in a different spot now.
Oh, they did? Okay.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. Go ahead.
No, I was going to ask, Kev, the big story of the week and the big surprise of the week was Ron Hextall and Brian Burke in Pittsburgh. And, I want to get your opinion on that and the surprise, because, everybody thought Burke was firmly established at Sportsnet. He was, the heir apparent to Don Cherry doing the first period intermissions. It seemed like he really enjoyed it, but he obviously, wanted to get back in and took the job as president of hockey operations. What do you think of that team there?
Well, I know a lot of people will disagree, but I really love this. And if we would have thought this through, we might have seen it coming.
Yeah.
Because the Penguins have always gone big or gone home. Right. Let's go back all the way to Craig Patrick, bringing in Bob Johnson and Scotty Bowman at the same time.
Yeah.
And they went big with Jim Rutherford. Like he wasn't even in the mix. Nobody was talking about him. But as soon as they knew that he was in, they wanted the most aggressive trader of all time. And I also think this is good because of the Penguins. This is good for both the Penguins and for Ron Hextall, because Ron Hextall has spent 20 years garnering, rightfully so, a reputation for being a good man at the draft, got a good eye for talent, knows how to stockpile prospects. Look at the Penguins right now, a team with very few prospects. Look at the Philadelphia Flyers, stock full of guys that Ron Hextall drafted. Flyers are ahead of the Penguins right now. Right. So they actually need, even though they don't know they need them or they don't necessarily believe they need them, they need a guy like Ron Hextall.
And that's why he was my number one choice for them, Kev, because I felt like they needed to really rebuild. I still was shocked at Burke, but I like the combination because I think now Hextall will bounce off things off Burke. But if you let Burke run a whole team, it's not good either. But I think the two of them together, I think that's a good combination. Yeah,
the two-headed monster. I agree with you. And I think the reason why it works is because even though Brian Burke is a articulate man with good vision and, a guy that believes in 5-year plans, what he's about mostly is winning tomorrow. Like, he's a guy that deals with immediacy. He wants to win. He's impatient. And you're absolutely right. I think that the combination of those two, and Berkey knows, not that Ron Hextall doesn't know people in the league, because he surely does, but not the way Berkey knows them.
Right.
Berkey is, knows a lot about everybody who's in this league, and he's spent time with them. He's been fishing with half the general managers in the league. Like, he's just has always been a social butterfly. Right. That's kind of an odd characterization, but he really is. He's a guy that when he meets you, he gets to know you.
He really does. No, that's really true.
And I think that benefits Hextall as well, who I think is a bit shy sometimes.
Yeah,
he could be a bit shy when he's on camera. When he's off camera, he's not.
Yeah, no, I know. Yeah, I know Ron. I cover him, but I just think that that I agree with you. I like the fit on this, and I think there's there'll be some trial and error about how this is going to work.
No question.
Yeah.
Now
So
the interesting thing is, Kev, is that both Hextall and Burke, they did the rounds on media in Canada and elsewhere, and they said the right thing. They said, okay, we're going to like basically do wait and see this year, see what the team does, and then based on what we do this year, then evaluate. And there are some people that believe that is maybe that's truthful. If they start winning and they make the playoffs, they'll just ride that wave. And there are some people that think that Hextall was brought in for, as you said, has a good eye for talent, and he's somebody who will restock the shelves in Pittsburgh. But that Burke, he doesn't have any problem making the big bold move, and obviously the big bold moves in Pittsburgh would be possibly trading Malkin with a year left in his contract, and possibly trading Letang with a year left in his contract. Where do you think it goes?
I take people at their word until they prove that they're not being truthful. And Morehouse is on record, and Morehouse has power. Like, don't think because he's not a hockey guy. He's got Mario's ear, and Morehouse has said, we are not rebuilding. And I think that's the plan today. Will it be the plan this summer? I think so, but we'll see. The goal by Malkin last night was an important goal, I think.
It was.
Yeah, it was.
Because, everybody's starting to wonder whether we need the panic button or the patience button.
Yeah.
But Kev, here's a good example, right? And I suggested yesterday they should use the word reshaping. Put a new word in there, because you are still going to have to make changes. And I think the minute they think they can't make the playoffs, you're going to start to see those changes. If for some reason they're on track for the playoffs, they're not going to upset the apple cart, but you'll see those changes at the draft. But I think these changes are coming, because you can't leave the farm system the way it is, because in 2 years you will have nothing. You'll have a 37-year-old Malkin. He'll be somewhere else. He'll be off your team. Same with Letang, and you'll have nothing. And they know that, so they have to do things. They do.
Yeah, but their reshaping has been their strategy for the last 6 or 7 years. Like, no one has been more aggressive than the Penguins.
Yeah.
Well, they've been too aggressive. They've been too aggressive.
Well, but they've reshaped every year, and it's funny about this season too. Now, I've tried to go back and look, but it's actually hard to do this because they've made so many moves that you can't. But I've said for a long time they've always been one winger short. Even when they won the Cup, I felt like they were one winger short.
Yeah.
They have enough quality wingers to play with both Malkin and Crosby. They usually had 3 instead of 4. Now they have 4. And then this is the year they're struggling.
And now they're one defenseman and one goaltender short.
Yeah, absolutely. That's
talked to Phil Bork there a lot, and he basically says, the thing that they haven't done, and it sounds crazy maybe because we all talk about this player as not having been a good player in the NHL recently, but they haven't replaced Phil Kessel on their power play, and it's killed them. Like that, he said that just continually, like Phil Kessel, what he meant for that power play was so important, and that is just something that they have not been able to figure out a way to score without.
That's a good example. So, and if that is the case, that's where you have to have draft picks to be able to do that,
right?
Because you're most likely not getting that guy in a trade because you're running out of assets.
And the problem now is that, and Rutherford had marching orders to make this team competitive now based on the short windows that they have with Crosby, Malkin, and Letang. And I get that. But you look at where they are now, and they've got a lot of players on long-term deals that are going to be a bitch to trade. Good luck. As much as Gensel and Zucker and Tanev are talented, trading guys with 3 and 4 years term after this year is tough, no matter how good the player is. So, Russ's favorite, Brian Rust, Malkin, and Letang, who all have a year left after this year, they're the only ones they can really move to get draft picks back and start changing and retooling and rebuilding. Yeah. And maybe those are the guys you don't want to trade.
I'm sorry, guys. What keeps happening with me? There's an electrical group outside my house right now, and the power keeps flicking. So
disconnected. We'll just continue on.
That's what happened last time. I'm afraid it could go off again. So
you can handle that.
I'm here until it does.
Yeah, but
I look at them and I say, okay, play the way you're playing right now.
Yeah.
Within 2 weeks of the trading deadline, be honest. And if you don't think you can get past the first round, start making moves, because if you start now, you'll be ahead of the game than if you wait even until the draft. Because I'm not saying you have to trade everybody, but I'm saying you do need to recoup some draft picks here. Start doing it now.
Well, and Kev, the funny thing is, and again, I don't know if they're even substantiated or not, but as soon as this changeover happened, there were rumors of, well, they're going to try to trade for Marc-Andre Fleury with Vegas. They put in inquiries about Jonathan Quick in Los Angeles. I mean, I don't know if I see them sort of like going all in even more than they are right now, because they really don't have a lot of flexibility to do those moves.
Well, they don't, but they've had some injuries now. If you look up Cap Friendly, I think they have a few dollars. I've thought all along that the Marc-Andre Fleury was a possibility, and I still believe that. Just especially if they're not getting the quality of goaltending they want as they move deeper into the season. So I wouldn't be shocked if they made that move. I don't think. What's Fleury have left? Another year after this?
Yeah, one more year at $7 million.
Right. Yeah.
But Vegas is in no position to retain any salary. They would have to find a third team, which isn't impossible, because that deal between Chicago and Vegas trading Leonard last year, Chicago mixed in the Leafs to eat salary on Leonard to be able to trade him to Vegas because they had no cap space. So you could mix in a Detroit or an Ottawa or somebody who has cap space. It's just going to cost you a ton to do it. Yeah. So it's possible, but not.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to retool after this season, unless the only way I could see it happening is if Malkin tells them, "Look, I'm not going to re-sign here. Right. I'm not going to take less money or whatever." And then they say, "Okay, we'll see what we can get for him." But Crosby's going to be a Penguin for life.
Yeah, if he wants to be, which he probably does.
Oh yeah, I'm sure he does. Yeah, and
the other thing is, so if you could somehow clear some cap space, if nothing else, Kev, you can go and sign some European free agents to short-term deals and try and supplement those guys in while you're adding some draft picks too, because they've been unable to do that because they don't have any cap space.
Yeah. No, they haven't been able to do that. Yeah.
And they've always been a target for the college free agents. Like I think Zach Aston Reese was one of them. So probably Hextall is going to do that too, because that's free money basically.
Yeah. They have that. When you look at, going back to what I said before, they've got Gunsel, they've got Zucker, they've got Kapanen, and Rust has played well.
Oh yeah, he's a good player.
Yeah, so they've got guys playing on the wing. I don't think they're bottom six. It's their defense that's a mess.
Yeah, Matheson is hurt right now, but that contract is a boat anchor. It was a boat anchor when Florida signed it, and I don't know. I don't understand that move. But Pierre LeBrun wrote something about changes in the NHL draft lottery. Apparently, there were some complaints last year, especially I'm sure Steve Yzerman, with the fact that they ended up fourth with the worst record in the league, and they really weren't tanking; they were just bad. Is a factor. But apparently, LeBrun is reporting that they may change the percentages a bit. They may go back to something similar to the way it was before, where it'd be the top 5 have a chance to move up to 1. There are things about, a team drafting first overall can't draft first overall again the following year, that they'd be limited in terms of maybe third. I mean, I don't know what you've heard.
I know that they were going to. I thought they were only going to address percentages. I support that. I don't like the going back to only 5 guys can get it. I think it adds an element of entertainment and fun.
No, I agree with that.
Yeah, that leaves when you got some kind of opportunity. I just think the percentages are wrong.
Yeah,
that's all. I mean, it shouldn't be, as Steve Yzerman said when it was done, we knew that there was a better chance that we would be fourth than any other thing. That's wrong. Okay, that's what's wrong. So you just have to adjust the percentages. Now, it's up to debate, what those percentages should be, but it shouldn't be that you have a better chance to be fourth than first. So
But it shouldn't matter, Kev. If you get first one year, you can get first the next. Like, that's ridiculous. I mean, if you win the lottery, they don't stop you from winning the lottery again. I mean,
yeah, no.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. The only thing I think is we just need to fix the percentages, and it would be better. But this sports is supposed to be fun, and I think when you bring in every non-playoff team, if you don't make the playoffs, you got a shot at the number one pick, and even if it's just a small shot or a minimal shot. Just give everybody a chance to win it, and it'll happen occasionally.
Well, I think here's the other thing, Kev. I think for some reason, other people look at the NFL and they say, well, look, the worst pick gets the first pick. But the idea is, yes, because they also have schedules that are based off of how good they were the year before. Right. That's the strength of schedule. Yeah. It doesn't work that way in the NHL. It's a balanced schedule.
Yeah.
So you can't compare it.
And the percentage argument is valid when you look at it. And they thankfully the Athletic LeBron put up a chart in that article. Only twice in the last decade did a team that was 31st or 30th or 31st overall keep the number one pick. One was the Sabres with Rasmus Dahlin, and the other was Austin Matthews in the Leafs. Every other team that finished last in the league slipped either one spot or two spots. That's ridiculous.
It's too few. But you don't have to revamp the whole system.
No,
you just have to adjust the percentages, and you know what? And if we try it and it still is feels wrong, like everybody knows it's wrong now. I mean,
how about this, Kev? Again, let's get rid of percentages, and we'll do a round of Jeopardy with the NHL GMs and the worst 10 teams. They go through a round of Jeopardy and they keep going through it until they figure out what order the draft is. Will everybody be satisfied then?
Yeah, well, no, you'll never satisfy everyone. But there is a consensus that is reached about things. And right now this feels unfair to pretty much everybody.
Yeah, that's true.
And so we just need to fix it. And, maybe it'll take us 2 tries because you're just dealing with the math a little bit. But I think it's an easy fix. I want to talk a little bit too about because we were all so wrong about this team, and it just reminds me of, again, the fun aspect of sports. And we always talk in absolutes about what we think is going to happen, and then a team always surprises every year. And the team that's the most shocking to me, because I've watched most of their games, is the Chicago Blackhawks.
Yeah,
like there is no explanation for.
Well, Russ and I were talking about that last night, and the first thing, we said before the season, the goaltending tandem is Malcolm Subban and Colin Delia. That's all we said. Delia and Subban and Delia.
You didn't know about it.
And then all of a sudden, Kevin Lankinen comes out of nowhere. Right. And up until last night, when he gave up 6 goals against Columbus, his save percentage was .925 or .930. It was fantastic. And he's a 26-year-old guy who nobody knew.
Yeah, we didn't know. He wasn't on our radar. I did talk preseason about Ian Mitchell, and that was a hell of a pickup for them because he's a heck of a prospect. But you're right. There are other things that are going right for them. I still don't think they're going to be in it, Kev. I don't. I think they're going to fall out.
They're much better.
They are much better than
I went last night and looked at all the predictions on them, and nobody had them higher than 7th.
Right.
No one had them playing this well, and it's a guy like Pius Suter, stepping in.
Yeah. But again, Kev, what do you think about this? We vote for the awards. I do not like the fact that a 25-year-old guy can win the Calder Trophy. I don't like it. I think it should go down to 23. He's going to be 26. Did I say what? I think he's 26, right, Mike? Or 25. He's 25 in May. I mean, that's just too old. It's like, I'm sorry.
What I've said when I was president of the Writers Association, I hated it when our writers would voice things like, say, I'm not going to vote for this guy because he's too old.
No, I won't do that. I'll vote for him.
No, that's right. And what I said all the time is, don't do that because the rules don't say use your own discretion to compare an 18-year-old and a 25-year-old. The rules say you're eligible for the award, you're eligible for the award. Now, saying that, but if you tell me that we need to change the rules, that's a different story.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, his birth date is May 24, 1996. So he's 24 years old right now. He'll be 24 throughout the regular season.
Who are we talking about?
Pius Suter.
Pius Suter, yeah. Because this
he'll be 25 by the time he could potentially win.
Yeah,
the award.
it's not like Makarov.
No, but it's close. I mean, in nowadays terms, this guy has probably played 7 or 8 pro seasons, Kev, when normally you're looking at guys who are getting that trophy and they've maybe played 1, maybe they played 2 or 3 or 4 like Kaprizov overseas, but they haven't played as much as this guy. And yes, I definitely would still vote for him if he's worthy, but I do think this should precipitate a change because I think the world has changed again. And I do think that you have to look at it and say, all right, there is a big difference when there's an 18-year-old in the league and a 24-year-old in the league.
And Ross, even after last night's game, Lankinen has a .924 save percentage. He's 5-2-3 in 10 games with a .924 save percentage. And this is a guy.
Well, he could win the Calder.
He could win he's 25. He's 25 years old.
Again, 25. Do we even look at this guy like, hey, he's a heck of a rookie?
Well, again, there was no indication. He had 5 years in the SM Liga in Finland, but he played 2 years in the AHL with Rockford, and his stats were pedestrian. So all of a sudden, like he's come out of nowhere.
But think about how long he's been a pro already.
Sure.
That's my point.
Yeah,
he's been a pro a long time.
The thing that is most shocking about Chicago is without Taves, without Dotch, without Seabrook, Patrick Kane has 20 points. He's taking this team on his back.
Well, and I remember doing a story about going into the 2014 Olympics, and we at USA Today identified one player from every sport who we considered to be the best player, on the team, and I did Kane, and so I wanted to get some rival. You don't want just quotes. From people on his team. So I got in touch with Ken Hitchcock, and he said that Patrick Kane was one of the most competitive players in the league. Like he said, if you watch him every shift, he said he never takes a shift off. It's still true today. You watch him, regardless of what the expectations were for the Blackhawks, regardless of the fact that Taves isn't there, regardless of the fact that he was supposed to play with Kirby Dodge, and he, obviously couldn't do that. He's out there doing his thing. I watched him. He had a chance to score a goal, but Suter had 2 goals, and he passed up a great shot to try to give Suter a chance to get a hat trick. That's a real team guy in my book.
Yeah. And he also scored a great goal in the top right corner that looked like it was from 10 years ago. So.
Yeah, he's having a really, really, really strong season, and a big part of it. And
it's all by committee. If you look at their, DeBrincat's got 7 goals, the same as Kane, but it's Suter, Matthias Janmark, Strome, Philip Kurashev. I mean, they've got 6 or 7 guys who have 4 or more goals. So there's really it's impressive. But
you actually have to give, even though. The fans in Chicago are upset about the salary cap situation and blame Bowman for that. He actually has kept this team remarkably competitive in all this. I actually think that he'll be named the general manager of the Olympic team, of the U.S. Olympic team. He's been part of that committee a while.
Okay.
He's one of the few guys that hasn't had an opportunity like that again. And, I see him, Bowman, and, Sullivan being the tandem. Perhaps.
Yeah, I was gonna segue to that, Kev, because we talked about Team Canada when Doug Armstrong was named as the GM for Team Canada, and Russ and I were speculating about who would be the head coach for Canada, and I think it's gonna be Cooper, but it could be Barry Trotz or somebody like that. But with Team USA, we didn't know who the GM was gonna be, and the 2 top coaches in my mind would either be Sullivan, who's won 2 Stanley Cups, or Torts. And based on what Torts is going through right now in Columbus, I don't know whether Torts would work, but Sullivan, he's won 2.
Torts had the 2016
World Cup.
World Cup. So I think they'll go with Sullivan. And also, Laviolette has to be considered a guy they really like, but they won't give it to him because, first of all, he may not even be an NHL coach then, is Jeff Blashill.
I'm going to give you another name, Kev, but here's the thing about Sullivan. We have to all agree that in the last couple of years, his effectiveness with the Penguins hasn't been great. And so my feeling of what he could do with this team has diminished over the last 2 years. And he may not even be coaching a team by the time the Olympic team is there. That's a possibility. I mean, why not Scott Sandel? He is coached through the system, he's coached World Junior teams. He's won gold. He's a big winner in Minnesota Duluth. Why couldn't a guy like that come there and do it? Why does it have to be a recycled NHL coach that, are maybe not as effective as they used to be?
Yeah, they're going to go with an NHL coach.
No, I know, but give me a reason why they shouldn't. Like, I don't understand why they never do that.
It's just kind of an accepted thing that we're going to send NHL players over there, and I bet you the Players Association would have something to say about that.
They would? Okay.
Yeah, I'm just guessing, but I just don't think that, they would do that. Just I mean, your point's a good one. I mean, just because a guy is in the NHL doesn't mean he can't be a quality coach.
Right. I mean,
there are people, college coaches that, could do that, as well. So it's going to be a fun tournament. I'm going to do a story next week. I've been working, kind of working the guys that who are going to be involved in decision making to sort of get a good feel for who they project now. And it's way early. Like, things are going to change, especially with the older players.
Yeah, it's a year out right now, and
right.
But the interesting thing, and Russ brought this up a couple days ago. I mean, I hadn't heard it, but is there? I mean, obviously, everything right now with COVID is up in the air. I mean, we know that the Tokyo Olympics are going to come off this summer. At least they're saying that, but it's going to basically be in a bubble. But Russ was saying he had heard something about maybe it's not going to be in Beijing in 2022, and if they all of a sudden shift it someplace else, I would assume it would probably be a place where they've had a recent Winter Olympics, and Salt Lake in 2002 and Vancouver in 2010. It possibly it'd be in North America.
Well, I'm trying to work at those Olympics, and I've been in contact with a group over there that's going to do the news service, and there was not any indication that it wasn't going to be in China now. But I'm so far down the food chain. I wouldn't know. But
this is just talk that's online, but it does make you wonder, because let's just say, for argument, Kev, they still say, hey, it's going to be virtual. Beijing may not want it.
Yeah.
With no fans,
With no fans.
Yeah, well, that's all good points.
Now, going back to the NHL for a sec. I mean, we talked about this in terms of the landscape of what may happen when it comes to the playoffs. I particularly don't think they may end up in a bubble for the conference finals and the finals just for precautionary reasons, but I can't imagine the players agreeing to not playing in their home arenas for the first round and the second round. I don't think they want to be in a certain city for 2 months like they were the last. It wouldn't
be for 2 months, Mike.
It would be for 2 months if it was all 4 rounds.
No, but it wouldn't be that way. If you had regional hubs, they'd be in that city for a couple of weeks until the next regional hub. But I do think you're going to have to do that. I get what the players want, but Kev, I think if we look at what the players wanted right now, it's not fully working. And I think it would be very easy for the league to go back and say, hey, it was nice. The idea was nice. We did what you wanted. Now you kind of have to do what we want for the playoffs, because we have to get through this.
Well, yeah, I think once they get down to it, I mean, players are bright guys. They could see this isn't working. And
right.
I'm aware of players that had started to wonder whether we should even be playing at all. They're looking in the landscape, and 4 or 5 teams are overrun by this, and this is hard on them.
Yeah,
young players staying in their hotel rooms, the ones that are totally embracing it. It's been difficult. So probably just as hard as the bubble, to be honest with you. Other than when they're home, they get to be with their families. But when you're on the road, that's no fun. So
yeah,
yeah. I don't know. I think they will all do what they need to in order to get the playoffs done. That's my take.
Right. I agree. I think there's going to be probably some changes, and I do think you're right. I think there's, again, like they're changing the policy. I couldn't even message people that I wanted to tell the change of the policy because there's like 12 items. And so, yeah, there's going to be a lot more changes this season. Like, it's definitely not going the way we think it's going to go already.
Yeah. And you got to give them credit for they're really trying. Like
they are trying.
They really are trying to make this work, and I think the players are too. I mean, there might be a few guys that aren't, but I know you've seen some quotes from players talking about how many games of video games they've played on the road, what books they've read, and on the Red Wing broadcast they're talking about. Bobby Ryan's, he's a voracious reader, and all the books he's reading and all that kind of stuff. So I think there are a lot of the vast majority are following the protocols. But even if you follow all the protocols, if you live your life and with a more easily transmissible disease, you can still get it. So
I was going to make this comment when Eck was talking about the trade deadline. It's not going to be trade deadline day. It's probably going to be trade deadline week. Yeah, because they seem to think that by April the quarantine would be down to 7 days. But these teams, like if Toronto or Montreal are on top of the North Division, they're not going to want to trade for somebody on April 12th and not get him until April 19th when there's like 7 or 8 games left in the regular season. They're probably going to want to make their moves preemptively and get those players as early as possible and, get them right after the deadline. And that means making your moves early. And we've seen general managers make their moves early, even in a regular 82 game season. So I think that's just going to be the case this time around.
Kevin. We do have some breaking news. So it looks like, and Jeff Merrick's reporting it, that the WHL is coming back in a hub in Regina starting on March 12th. So again, now the OHL didn't commit to anything like a hub, and they just rolled out this plan that we all know isn't going to work. But at least the WHL said, okay, look, we realize we have to do it in a hub. That's the way we're going to do it. And you know what? That makes sense. So they'll have some sort of season. And so now that will help some of the younger prospects. I mean, Kev, the under-18s now got announced yesterday that it's going to happen in Frisco, Texas. I already booked the hotel, and that will be the #1 tournament right before the draft. It will be the most important thing that happens before the draft because it's going to be, only the best live viewing we've had all year. Even if you're watching college hockey games, even if you were watching the early Q games or everything, they still aren't what they normally would be because the schedule is different. You're only playing a certain amount of teams. This is the only true competition that scouts are going to have to look at, really.
Yeah, I agree.
Now, the interesting thing with this, Russ, is how is this going to affect – I was looking at like Dylan Cousins, but he's already played 9 games, so his contract is already kicked in. How is this going to affect WHL players who teams might have wanted – to assign to their AHL teams because the WHL wasn't playing? Now the WHL technically is playing. It's a hub. Right. Now they can't send them down to the AHL.
I'll give you a good one as an example. So Peyton Krebs with the Vegas Golden Knights. If it were up to me at this point, I would just keep Peyton Krebs with the Vegas Golden Knights rather than sending him back. Now, normally I would send a guy and say, hey, but you know what? He is so close that, I would rather him be with the team, practice with the team, play him every once in a while, than send him there and just say, all right, you're done for the year, because he might actually be able to help my team. So I think it may force a few teams now to start playing these guys.
Where is Braden Schneider right now? Is he with the Rangers? Do you know?
No, I don't think he's anywhere close to the Rangers.
Okay.
I haven't heard his name, so I don't think he's even on the taxi squad.
All right. Well, and we have spring training to look forward to, Kev. Pitchers and catchers report, I think, on Monday.
Wednesday, I thought I saw.
Wednesday. Okay. Yeah, I knew it was next week at some point, but it sounds like they're going to try to play as of April 1st would be opening day. And I know in New York, all of a sudden it's 10%. It'll be 10% of the fans at Yankee Stadium and Citi Field. So it'll be weird to see those stands not full, but at least we'll get to see, 162 games.
Although I don't know what's going to happen with my streak. I don't know if I'll spend the money to keep my streak going. It's gone consecutively since 1988, Kev. And so I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what I do with that. But Mike, when pitchers and catchers are reporting, I am going to watch. I'm going to be in Atlantic City to watch Trump Plaza implode, and that will bring a certain amount of warmth to my heart.
Well, Russ, everything that has the name Trump is imploding right now. That's just a metaphor for everything that's going on.
And I work there and everything, so I'm invested in this now. I am going to be there. I am going to video it so people could follow me online. I probably will have a live video feed.
Well, you can enjoy that, and probably on the same day he'll be acquitted from the impeachment, so there'll be a ring to it. Okay, great show. Thanks, Kev, for here as usual, and thanks for the departed Eklund, and thanks to Russ Cohen. I'm Michael Agello. Thank you for watching.
And thanks to Anna.
And thanks to Anna, who walked across the screen as she normally does, without any care in the world. And remember, without the buzz,